What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Innovators Den. I am formerly known as Hashtag. Please follow us at the Innovators Den on YouTube, on Instagram, and in all your platforms. I'm here with
Steve All Business, and we got a special guest, Tony, from the Peralta Project, correct?
Yes, sir.
What's up?
What's up, guys? How you guys doing?
It's an honor to have you here, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, we have a lot of creative people on the set with us, and we just want to elaborate on your story and how you got to being a creative and doing amazing work that has been published, and So what's up? Talk to us. Tell us your story.
From Washington Heights, born and raised. Went to G-Dubs, didn't graduate from high school, right? Got my GED, went to Long Island University. I wanted to be a film director.
Mm-hmm.
By the time I graduated, I think it was in 1999, there wasn't a lot of production happening in New York City during that time.
Mm-hmm.
And when I actually went to college around here, I went to Long Island University. So I was a media arts major, and I focused on the things that really kind of like drawed my attention. So I was like into graphics, into photography and film. And it's interesting that major has helped me out in so many different ways as a creative. It's the reason why I could do a lot of things by myself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Even like, I had started a podcast, right? So when it came time to edit the audio, that shit was easy for me. You know what I'm saying? Like I went onto YouTube, it was like, okay, cool. Like I understand this, right? So it was like, I wasn't starting from like a blank slate. So honestly, I've always been creative. That's kind of like my superpower. When I was a kid, I've always, just drew. I used to be in like different classes in elementary school and junior high school. It was the only good thing I was good at. You know what I'm saying? My mom always said that when I was like, not a baby, but when I was like a lot younger, I would always just like be drawing and stuff like that. And it's kind of like the thing that helped me stick out, growing up. I love to say that art saved my life, right? Yeah. I grew up in the Heights. I'm from 187th Street. Obviously, during the time I grew up, we were known for two things in the 80s, Dominicans, playing baseball and like selling drugs, right? So
I think we're kind of still in that.
No, not really. I mean, I think Dominicans have come along so much, but like literally back then,
that was all that we were.
Yeah.
And another thing too, people didn't know what a Dominican was. Like, even though people know what Dominicans are now, like back in the days, if you spoke Spanish, people thought you were Puerto Rican, right? So it wasn't until that song El General came out that really kind of helped put us on the map, because he shouts out like Santo Domingo, and we got all hype about it, right? Like, me and my friends, we would go to clubs and stuff like that. So like when you're in the club, they'll shout out. They always like, was Brooklyn in the house? And whenever they said Uptown, they were really referring to Harlem, right? Yeah. And they will say Puerto Rico. They wouldn't say like Latinos. It was just because Puerto Ricans. So when that song came out, Tu Pum Pum and he said Santo Domingo, we literally lost our shit, right? So that's kind of like my origin story. Again, is growing up in the Heights. I was in the streets in the sense of like, yo estaba afuera. Like I was always outside playing around, being around the drug dealers. Obviously, I have friends that got into that. I always felt that I had a purpose in life. Mm-hmm. And the thing that kind of deterred me from like selling drugs, because trust me, I had the opportunity, was that the first day that I sold drugs, I will go to jail, because I'm basically breaking what my purpose in life was. Like that was in my mind as a kid. So it's the reason why I never kind of like was really in the streets. I was so afraid of going to jail. You know what I'm saying? So that was like a huge deterrent.
So your why kind of prevented you from actually.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's just like, I never was envious of like what people had. I grew up with a single mom. My mom didn't really buy me that much stuff. My mom would just buy me things like necessities, right? Which is the reason why I was able to like use my imagination. You know what I'm saying? Like I have an older brother and a sister, it's four of us, but I was always creative with even the way that I dressed. I didn't have like the new sneakers or anything like that. I just knew how to put on an outfit, you know what I'm saying? Which kind of also helped me stick out. one of the things that I learned, like when you broke, you just know how to do things and be resourceful, right? So like for instance, my mom used to send me to go get a haircut when I like every 6 months. Like here's $6, go to Jerry's, go do a number one. And that's why, like, if you look at my pictures, my hair always looks busted, right? Because I would cut my hair every 6 months. But I learned how to like give myself shape ups by using a Bic, right? But then little by little, I just like then I bought the straight edge razor. So like, I cut my own hair. Like I've been cutting my hair ever since like I was a teenager.
Nah.
You know what I'm saying? So, and then funny thing enough, when I learned how to cut hair, I used to cut the drug dealers' hairs as well. Some of them, in my neighborhood.
So then the creative process started channeling through you. I've been seeing your work that you was doing that you was using Dominican culture through your artwork to communicate a message and to highlight our culture through art, correct?
Yeah, in a way, this is the thing, right? Because I've always been an artist. I've always been a creative. I only do what I know, right? So what I know is Dominican culture, but from my point of view as a Dominican American.
Right.
Right, as a Dominican American.
Were you born in Dominican?
I was born and raised here.
Got it.
I'm from Uptown, Washington Heights, born and raised, right? But I was lucky enough that, I would go to the Dominican Republic almost every summer, right? So, the cool thing about that is that I got to witness a lot of cool stuff that was happening in the Dominican Republic growing up, right? That people have no clue from. Like, it's interesting, like, Jack Veneno died a couple of years ago, and the movie came out. But there's so many Dominicans from New York City that I didn't know who that was. Right. But I knew he was because when I would go there, they would show the lucha libre.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. So those are all references that I had.
Right.
I think he's the face of Fortimal too, right?
He was the face of Fortimán and a whole bunch of stuff. And another thing was that when I would, I love going to galleries and art shows and things like that, especially in the early 2000s. So I always noticed that there was nothing there that kind of like that I could relate to, right? So that's kind of like where I started to do things that represented Latinos and Latinos in New York City, right? So like one of the very first things that I ever did, one of the first things I ever did was the Café Bustelo can. It was in 2004. No, not even. It was the Goya can. It was the Goya can in 2004.
But for me, that's a reference to like the Andy Warhol, right?
Well, so I'm an artist and I'm also a graphic designer, and I always love streetwear, right? So when you look at streetwear always did things with logo flips, right? Like that's always been a thing.
Right.
I literally remember when I got that idea of the Warhol thing was like I was reading this biography. I was on the subway and I was reading the biography of Jean-Paul Basquiat. And there was a moment in the chapter where they talked about, they did a collaboration together. And then it hit me in my head. I was like, I wonder if anybody ever took the Goya can the same way, but made it, not the Goya can, the Campbell's soup can, and made it the same way but as a Goya can, black beans can. And I was like, damn, that would be so dope. And I came up with this whole concept of like, and if not too long ago, somebody actually sent me the invitation we did to this art show that I had, and the whole concept was, what if Andy Warhol was Latin? And it was Andres Warhol. What if Andy Warhol was Latin? That was the concept behind. Right. When I got home, that was the early days of Google, so I Googled to see if anybody ever did anything like that, because the time that I grew up, we lived by this no biting allowed thing, right? I saw nobody had done it, and I was like, I got this shit. So that I worked on that. I being a graphic designer, I did the graphic, and then I had learned how to screen print and did it as a screen print. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's kind of like from there was the beginning of what I call arte pop or pop art, but in Spanish. And basically, what I decided what I was gonna do was I love screen printing, right? Because it's very quick, right? Also, being a graphic designer, I could literally come up with something on my computer and then make it into a piece of art, into an actual piece of
Or a
tangible
product,
art.
a T-shirt or a hoodie or whatever.
Exactly, right? I had learned how to screen print on my own by looking at YouTube videos, but then I took a class at a School of Visual Arts and been there ever since, and it's my medium. And what I also said to myself was like, I'm going to do whatever Warhol did, like I'm going to do it, but I'm going to just do it from a Latino standpoint, right? The thing with me is just like, I am Dominican, right? But that's not the only thing that I do. You know, I'm somebody who grew up in hip hop. Like hip hop is a very important art form for me and culture. Being a New Yorker, being Dominican, being a Dominican New Yorker, like all those things play a part in what my art is. Correct. You know what I'm saying? So it's not necessarily one particular thing.
It's not one dimensional.
It's not one dimensional. And honestly, and the thing is too, is just like I do whatever I get inspired to do. You know, I think one of the things that sets me apart from a lot of people, of somebody who I know had told me that, was that I pay attention to the mundane. Right? So meaning like there's things that we could just be sitting here and like, you know, like for instance, I have a T-shirt that's coming out, and the idea I got it was I went to this play, and the play was about hip hop, and there was this young lady painting, a life painting, and she had a Café Bustelo can with her brushes in it, and I was just like,
wow,
yo, that shit is dope. That's me.
That's a reference, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it's me. That's a Latino artist. Yeah. Like you look at that, that's like a symbol for Latino artists.
Right.
It's almost like when you see like the butter cookies
yes.
in a Hispanic household.
Yeah.
But you go and look for butter cookies, you might see like sewing things in
yeah, exactly.
Some other kind of
yeah. You know, that's kind of like, again, how like inspiration, it just comes from anywhere. Like I'm at this play, and this girl's doing a live painting, and she has her brushes inside of a Café Bustelo can. And I was just like, yo, that shit is dope. Like that's either like a T-shirt design or something. And I just, took a note from it. And that is actually coming out in a couple of weeks. That's kind of like how my brain works. That's why, like, first of all, I love to travel, right? Like I love to travel. And it's just like, even when I go to the Dominican Republic, and in the past at least 10 years, like, when I go to the Dominican Republic, I don't go to the Dominican Republic like how people normally go. You know what I'm saying? Like, I actually have friends over there. Like, but that's, I know a lot of creatives over there. Like, I know the weirdos. I know the weirdos in DR. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and I love walking around. I mean, people look at me like I'm crazy because I'm walking around and shit. But it's just like when I walk around, there's things that I see that inspire me to do something, right? And it's with anything, even with traveling. I feel like a lot more free when I travel. You know what I'm saying? No matter where I'm at, you know what I'm saying? I love everything about travel. Just even like being at the airport is fun to me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't know, something just kind of unlocks for me, and I just, I get a lot of inspiration.
So the Peralta Project, that became almost like a multimedia project thing that you could just funnel all your ideas through as a brand or a company, just to understand more?
No, well, the Peralta Project, basically, again, being a child of hip hop, fashion plays a huge part in it, right? So it's like the first T-shirt I ever made, I was 17 years old, right? So because we love hip hop. This was at the time, like in Harlem, they used to like sell a lot of the bootleg T-shirts and all of that, right? With like sayings of like song, like for instance, I used to have
artists. They used to have the hip hop artists on the show.
Nah, but it was even more like it was just like they'll take sayings, like something from a rap lyric, and then make a T-shirt from there or whatever, right? There was a song by Lords of the Underground called Mr. Funky, and it's like there's a part of the song that goes, I live for the funk, I die for the funk.
I live for the funk.
Yeah, that one, exactly. So what I did was, me and my friend at the time, like, we thought it would be dope to make a T-shirt like that, and then like I drew this dude, he had an afro, because again, this is the 90s, so and it said the word funk on it. And it was just like, all right, like we want to make T-shirts. He worked at his father's store. I think I had a job, some sort of a job somewhere. And And one day I went to an event. It was a Zulu Nation reunion party. That's what it was. And there was somebody selling T-shirts, and I asked him, "Yo, where you get this done?" Right? And he told us about some chick in the Bronx. We went to the Bronx. Whatever it was, we made the T-shirts. We put our money we figured it out. We put our money together, and we made probably like 24 T-shirts or whatever. And like we sold them to the drug dealers in the neighborhood, you know. And like that was my first time doing shirts. And you know, there's this thing about hip hop that there's always like this entrepreneurial spirit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like I could do this DIY, I could do this on my own thing. Yeah. So with the Peralta Project, I had started working. So like my first job out of college, I worked for a PR marketing company, focused on the urban market, like product placement, getting things in magazines, stylists, all of that. That's what they did.
What brands were out at that time? Like,
this is
Mecca,
this is 1999. Yeah, no, Mecca. So this is Mecca time. This is Fubu. Like this is like literally 1999, 1998, 1999. So
you guys remember Third Rail?
Yeah,
Third Rail, Echo, all that stuff. And like so when I went to work for this, it was a small PR marketing company, and that's where I got to go to Vegas for the first time for Magic, and just saw the whole bit. Like I saw the whole
Pandora's box.
It just like blew me away. Like the first time I was there, I was just like, first of all, you see rappers and all the clothing that you like and all this other shit, and I was like, I want to be part of this world so bad. And I was working for the PR marketing company, but my dream was to work as a graphic designer for a brand. That's 1999, and then a couple of years later, like I've always been somebody that carved my own kind of like road and niche. I don't really go the way everybody else does.
Right.
And I started working designing handbags and like backpacks. Wow. Right. That's just like I wanted to have a job in the fashion business, and I ended up
all the way to doing tech packs, or it was just graphic flats.
No, doing everything.
Wow. Oh, the whole
everything.
Working the whole sampling, production.
Yeah, design. Like that's how I learned everything. Wow. You know what I'm saying? Like
I didn't know that.
I have a crazy the crazy thing is like I have a weird crazy career because again, like I said, I wanted to be a director, right? So then when I graduated from college, for a whole year I looked for a job, and I couldn't find one because at that time there wasn't really doing a lot of production in New York City. So then I went to plan B, which was doing graphic design, which was something I was good at. And I started working for this PR marketing company, being their design director. And then I was there for like about 2 years, and then I got another job working for this company that owned Pokemon.
Wow.
Right? So like there's this thing called a style guide, where when you have licenses and you have a license with somebody who makes your shorts or whatever, you give them this style guide so that has your logos and your colors. So then I got this job working at this company called 4Kids doing style guides, right? Wow. And then because I knew how to do style guides, this company that was a licensee or licensor or whatever that did backpacks, they hired me
to do graphic designs on the pack.
No, but the thing is, it was to design. It was to do everything. Oh. It was to do everything because they like literally I remember how
you're like the creative director and designer and.
No, but the funny thing is this: like I remember like the interview. She said, she was like, "Have you ever designed like a backpack or whatever?" It's like, no, but like I know how y'all do, where you just basically buy a sample from somewhere and knock it off. So I could do that. Like literally, like that's why I saw that's what the fashion business is. Like I literally everywhere. Like trust me. I've done freelance, Abercrombie or whatever. The first time I get there, I see all these different designers, and they have all these samples by their desks. And people go shopping. That was back in the days where people go shopping to London and Japan or whatever. They come back with shit and they knock stuff out. Like, I like this pocket, so I'm gonna take this pocket. I like this or whatever. Because in the urban market, in the urban fashion thing, the majority of those dudes were people that were graffiti artists, people that were graphic designers or whatever, who did not go to fashion school.
Correct.
So when I learned that little secret and saw it, I was like, oh, I know how to use a computer. Like that's what it was.
Right.
It's like it was. The interesting thing about that time was that was the beginning of computers. So a lot of designers that went to FIT or whatever didn't really learn how to use the computer. They used to do everything sketching, right? So then they will hire people like myself to come and render their sketches.
To then make patterns.
To make patterns and all that shit. So I learned all that stuff.
Wow. I didn't know that side of it.
Yeah. So then in 2004, like I started doing art, and I started to do art. A friend of mine had an art exhibit, put together an art exhibit, put me in it. I did this one T-shirt. I had 3 paintings, and one of the paintings is called Gaza Strip, but a lot of people know it as Freedom, and it's basically this kid has his face covered and it had with a bandana, but instead of a bandana, it says the word freedom on it, and then it has the star and crescent and the doves, and this was in 2004, and so many people loved that painting, and it was like, you should make this into a T-shirt. You should make it into a T-shirt. A year later, I made it into a T-shirt, and it was when the Peralta Project, and that's how the Peralta Project was born.
What kind of painting do you do? You like
that painting? It was acrylic.
Acrylic?
Yeah, it was acrylic. I did my first T-shirt. Probus Uptown sold it, and Brooklyn Circus, because Ouija, me and him went to college together. Sold it in the store there too. So that's kind of like the beginning of the Peralta Project.
Wow. So it's like you went from graphic designer, creative artist, to then back into fashion. And
well, the thing is,
to art, to fine art.
I was doing art because what happened was that I needed a balance in my life. So it's just like sitting in front of a computer all this time. I was like, I need something for myself. Right. So, I kind of taught myself how to screen print, and then I took a class, and then I just was doing that, messing around. I would go on the weekends to the studio and create art pieces or whatever. And then, I started the Peralta Project, but that was really just a hobby for me.
And social media was not heavy at that time.
Social media was MySpace.
Right. Yeah.
And I was selling, I still the crazy, I have receipts. That's the thing about me, is just I'm not lying, because I could show you the proof of the stuff that I was putting on MySpace and all of that. But it was just a hobby. I used to work for a handbag company or whatever. I would go ahead, make samples, send to make sample, call places, because people are not going to make 12 or 24 T-shirts for you, right? Like back then. And it was like, can I make 12? But then you got to pay more or whatever. I would make the shirts, go on the weekends, go to the stores to try to get into stores or whatever, make my own catalog, shoot the photos myself, right? Use the copier from the company I worked for to make my own catalog. So then the weekends I would go and stop by the stores.
With the lookbook.
Yeah, create my own lookbook, right? And then go to this is during A-Life and all that other time. And the thing with me is this. I've always, in this fashion and urban or whatever, everybody wants to be from downtown. Everybody's the downtown scene and all that shit or whatever. I never cared about that stuff. I'm like, I'm from the Heights. I don't care where y'all from. You know what I'm saying? So I will go into stores, and what I hated about certain stores, especially when you go to stores downtown, like Lower East Side or whatever, if somebody didn't acknowledge me, I just left. That was a thing about having an attitude when you're gonna go spend money. Right. So the people that I wind up having in my stuff in their stores were people who I actually build relationships with. Right. So there was a moment where I had a few stores. There was a store called World on Christopher Street. I forgot another store that was, some girls owned it. But then in Harlem, I was Goliath and Vault sold my stuff, and then I started to design for them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
All in-house for them, actually?
No, I wasn't an in-house. I just do it freelance.
Right.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So Vault,
So then you became a sales rep. You became your own sales rep.
Well, when you have your own thing, you do everything.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You literally do everything. And the thing with me is just I never had a so-called team, because it's just what do you bring that I can't do?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If you have a skill that I can't do, then you could, I didn't need, again, since it was a hobby, I had my 9 to 5, right? I literally would take whatever money and make my samples. Whatever money I got from selling, I would put it back into making more stuff or whatever. But it was just something fun to do, honestly. And it was just like, it was a way for me to have an idea. And it also, it's just like, it's stuff that I wanted to wear, like my own T-shirt, like my own design or whatever, you know? So it was just like, honestly, I never saw it. Honestly thought like by this age I would probably be like some sort of creative director somewhere. So I never saw the Peralta Project becoming its own thing. You know what I'm saying? So then eventually things really picked up one day. You know, the change that happened with the Peralta Project was this. There was like, I started to get a little bit kind of like a little bit tired. I was like, I can't compete with like the other brand, like the real brands out there, right? Like they have a team or whatever. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to start making more hyper local things, right? So
hyper local things.
Yeah.
That's
So
a good keyword.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm going to make like, I'm going to rebrand Uptown. Like that was kind of like my idea, right? Like I'm from the Heights. The only T-shirt that I know that's from Uptown at that time was like Home of the Haze, right? Like that was a T-shirt I remember seeing, right? I was like, nah, I'm gonna like do some Uptown shit,
You
right?
feel like I love New York, but for Uptown.
Yeah, whatever. Like I literally changed, like instead of being a streetwear brand, right? Like competing with these folks, I'm gonna do something else. And what I started to notice is like obviously there's more people moving uptown, a lot of like white folks and shit like that. So I was like, I'm gonna create a product that if you're from the neighborhood, you're gonna wear with pride, and if you're white or whatever, you're gonna want to rock it, right? So then like I started like the whole Defend Uptown shit, the shit with the two guns and the Defend Uptown. It came up with the Washington Heights hat. Nobody have ever done the Washington Heights hat.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like the hat that literally like is from an old sign. And then I was doing that, and I would sell. There used to be a store called Nostalgia on Dykeman.
Yeah.
So Nostalgia will sell it. Obviously, I had a couple of pop-ups at Ivo. Ivo has always been supportive. And then what happened is one of those things where when the show Washington Heights came out in MTV, that's how everything kind of like from me just started to go up. Because here's the show Washington Heights. Frankie P is wearing my Wash Heights hat in the thing. When you went to the MTV website, there was a big picture of the hat, and then people just started to have all this like interest in coming to the Heights. You know what I'm saying? So I had a couple of like pop-ups up there, did pretty well, and then that's kind of like when things started to take off as far as like, oh, I could do this full time, because I had quit my job, and then I quit my job in 2009. I freelanced for a good 3 years. And when I freelanced, because things were really like, as an artist, and things were popping off for me, that I was like, my friend was a creative director for this company called Kipling. And I was like, she was like, yo, come and work for me. I was like, look, I'm going to come, but I'll only come 3 days a week. And I'll come from like 10, I come in at 10 o'clock and I leave at 5. And she was like, yeah, whatever. And I was like, all right, did that. And then I was there for 3 years, but then at the same time, like working the Peralta Project hard, like, I mean, my art and tees, everything, right? And then when that was over, I was like, yo, I am not trying to like redo my resume right now. I was like, I'm not trying to do that. And I just never went.
Especially when you have put the events together and be successful at it and throw the pop-ups and make the product. It's like, I could streamline my own.
No, it wasn't even that. I was just being lazy, to tell you the truth. Like, it was more like my capabilities, it's hard for me to put it on a piece of paper.
Yeah, I get that.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I could do a lot. Like, you know, like, for instance, like, for Kipling, I would do repeat patterns like crazy. My old job is like from designing handbags to designing the hardware. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know how to do all of that shit. You know what I'm saying? For my old job, like, there was so much things I was doing for them that was not part of my
job title.
My job title. So it's just like, I don't know how to write this shit down. I'm not doing this shit. Like, I'm just, and then I just kind of, and then then like 2015, because that's like 2013, 2012, 2013, and then 2015, I had put the Frida con Rolos online on the website. Like I literally like finished this art piece, and it should, and like I was like, wow, this is really dope, and it's also like I felt comfortable enough that I could do really big pieces. So I took a picture of me laying right next to it, and then that picture kind of went viral in a way, right? Whatever viral was.
Yeah.
And people was like, oh my God, where can I get that? Where can I get that? That I had to like drop prints even before having an exhibit. So that's kind of like when everything started to take off a lot more.
So,
And how did you get into the podcast? I know you have a podcast.
Oh, the podcast. I listened to a lot of podcasts, and dude, for years, like I was like, damn, I want to have my own podcast. But basically, one thing that I'm very curious is how creatives create. What is their process, right? One thing that I've learned is that there is no right or wrong way to creating. Right. Everybody has their method, right? But, you know, when you start off as an artist, you're very insecure. You think, you know, you copy. That's usually what happens. You want to be an artist. You copy your favorite artist, and then you start developing your own style, right? And then you meet other artists, and like there's people that, you know, you not that you envy. Like you just wish you could be like them. You could wish you could be as dedicated as them or put in all this time. But everybody has their way of doing things, right? So I had come up with this concept called Check the Method, where I interview creatives about their creative process. But in all honesty, I bought that Zoom mic, right? The Zoom mic and shit. I had that shit sit, and I had my store. I had that shit sitting in my store for like 3 years, right? That's what happens with me a lot of times. Is like I'll get excited about something, I'll go ahead and buy stuff, and then like I'll get excited about something else. But then I came back to it. You know, I launched it.
That's like the problem like with creatives is a gift and a curse. Like you see a vision, you start working on it, you see something else, and it's like, how do I get all of this information out of me? Like, you know, all this creative energy and juice that I got inside me. Like, you know,
you're curious about how other artists go through their creative process. What's yours?
My creative process is very lazy. My creative, like for instance, I am working on a project right now that I'm being just so lazy at it. You know,
and it's more lazy. Like you touch it, you look at it, you're like, I could touch it up a little bit.
No, it's just like I don't like. It's a paid project. I don't know. It's just like I watch TV, listen to podcasts. I wake up, I have my iPad. I go ahead and I work on it a little bit or whatever, and I'm like, okay, I did enough, and then I put it back down, and then I'll just go outside or whatever and shit like that. I've been in an interesting mood. You know, it's not. I don't want to say weird. It's just like
no, it's
not that. It's just like the world is in a weird space. Right. Yeah. And we all have to think about adjust and like pivot or whatever that is. 100%. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of like where I find myself at. You know, one of the things that I really kind of been into lately, like that's another thing too, is just like I compartmentalize things. So it's like I've been working out. Like I lost 30 pounds. So like I've been really going to the gym a lot. And
as well.
Absolutely. And I just turned 49. So it's just like I don't want anything else to come into to distract me from that.
Right.
I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but you know, I gotta make money or whatever. But it's just like that's my process. Is just like I have these jolts of like energy whenever I get like inspired and a great idea, and it's just like I fucking can't wait to do it, and then I'll do it, and then what happens is it's like, or I'll be designing it or whatever, working on it in my head. So I won't. It looks like I'm not doing it.
And nobody exactly.
There's times even
you think you're not doing nothing, and it's like you.
Oh no, I'm doing it. Like there's places. If I go to a party and I'm bored, or whatever, or wherever I go, if I'm like bored or whatever, I literally just. It's almost like I open up the laptop in my brain, and I start working. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And then it's just like when I sit down, it's like. Boom! I'll knock it out, and then that's it. Yeah,
that's dope. I mean, there's anything you want to highlight as far as like any projects that is coming up or events? Yeah. I know you got a pop up coming.
Yeah, I have a pop up coming up on October, I think it's, October 14th and 15th, which is the end of Hispanic Heritage Month at this place in Williamsburg called Casa Musa, which is right next to Toñitas.
It's going to be on the website or your social media?
On my social media, like
What's your social media?
It's Peralta Project, Peralta PRJCT. Also, like I have a newsletter, so it's really good for like to sign up to the newsletter, which you could do at peraltaproject.com. I have a collaboration dropping actually this Friday with Urban Outfitters. Then there was this whole like New York One thing that just came out the other day that is up. New York One Noticias, me talking about hip hop en español. I'm hoping to do an exhibit next year. Like that's one of the things that I'm aiming towards for what is it, April? Right. I'm hoping to do an exhibit because I haven't had an exhibit in a while. And trust me, like I'm always
creating
and working.
He was creating.
You know what I'm saying?
What advice would you give like up and coming artists on how to go through the process?
Graphic designers.
Graphic
designers are like the producers of brands, you know?
I don't know. I mean, it's interesting because I think graphic design is at a weird space right now. Like,
because of AI? Like,
no, it's not that. I just think that I don't know. I don't think there's so many tools out right now, like the whole Canva and all these other things that are so much easier. Like, I don't know what a real graphic design, like I don't know what the young people are doing, but the thing is, if you want to be a really good graphic designer, you shouldn't rely heavy on these things like a Canva or whatever and all of that. Like, you should just continue studying, looking at things, techniques or whatever. Like, no, like because the thing is, like, think about it. If you're somebody who's just like completely like use something like Canva, but you don't know typography. Like, there's an art to typography, meaning like you got to know what type goes with what. As far as like advice, man, like, anybody who wants to kind of like do their own thing, and you in this thing for the long run, first thing I tell people is, get a job, right? To pay your bills or whatever it is, to finance whatever it is that you want to do.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's
9
really
to 5 could take care of your 5 to 9.
Absolutely.
To 24.
Yeah, because it's like, if you in it for the long run and the long haul, the long game, it's gonna be a long game. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like being an entrepreneur is like it's hard.
It's an uphill battle.
It's an uphill battle. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, one of the things,
you gotta really want it.
You gotta really want it. And it's like, for me, the alternative is like, again, I don't want to go work for anybody ever again. I don't want anybody to tell me what to do. So that's like the alternative for me, right? So but whenever I have the anxiety, right? Because you're always gonna be anxious,
wanting to do more,
or things not happening, or things coming slowly, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's pivots, there's adjustments, there's slow. You know what I'm saying? Like, that just happens with business, right? So and I still would just rather deal with that nonsense than dealing with somebody tell me what to do or whatever. But that, and getting up, like, one of the things that I love about my life is that I wake up with no alarm clock. So
beautiful.
Beautiful.
Well, there you go.
We appreciate having you on the show.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
Please make sure that you follow us, subscribe, like, share, and follow Tony Peralta
at Peralta Project. That's PRJCT, and peraltaproject.com.
Perfect.
Thank you, guys.
Business Innovators Den. Let's go.